So over the weekend, speaking of Americans, American pastor Andrew Brunson was released after 2 years in a Turkish prison. He had been arrested on charges of Christianization, which, yes, that's a real thing in many countries across the world. Christianization is a crime that you can commit. And the Trump administration negotiated for his release, and he finally arrived home. And there was a wonderful scene at the White House where Pastor Brunson was thanking Trump and prayed for him, prayed over him, and it was a great scene. But I think Pastor Brunson's plight, and as far as I know, he hasn't spoken much yet about his actual experiences in prison, which I'm sure were not pleasant experiences. I'm sure we'll hear that story eventually, but his plight brings our minds back, or ought to bring our minds back anyway, to the problem of Christian persecution across the world. Remember, he was arrested for being Christian. That was his crime. And that is a crime, as I said, in many countries. In fact, there was a recent report released a few months ago that said that Christian persecution today is worse now than it's ever been in history. China, Egypt, India, Iraq, Nigeria, North Korea, Pakistan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia. The situation is very bad in all these countries. Christians are arrested, tortured, killed, persecuted in many other ways. Their churches are burned down, and their very existence, their faith, their existence has been criminalized. There's a story in Newsweek, of all places, about this problem a few months ago. Let me read a little bit of that to you, just so you understand what's happening. It says the persecution and genocide of Christians across the world is worse today than, quote, at any time in history, and Western governments are failing to stop it. A report from a Catholic organization said the study by Aid to the Church in Need said the treatment of Christians has worsened substantially in the past 2 years compared with the 2 years prior, and has grown more violent than any other period in modern times. Not only are Christians more persecuted than any other faith group, but ever-increasing numbers are experiencing the very worst forms of persecution, the report said. The report examined the plight of Christians in China, Egypt, India, Iran, Iraq, Nigeria, North Korea, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Syria, Turkey, over the period lasting from 2015 until 2017. And the research showed that in that time, Christians suffered crimes against humanity. Some were hanged, some were crucified. It says Saudi Arabia was the only country where the situation did not get worse, but that doesn't mean it got any better. The report put a special focus on Middle Eastern countries like Iraq and Syria, where the authors argued Christians would have been entirely wiped out if it weren't for military action and the assistance of Christian humanitarian organizations. Then it talks about the situation for Coptic Christians in Egypt. And then for Christians in various African countries, it's very bad as well. So this is a widespread problem across the globe.